Hey everybody, it's Tuesday night and that means it's time for dinner with Debbie. And I'm so glad to be on tonight and share with you this latest recipe. I decided to go ahead and do something that I haven't done before. It is a pork chop recipe. Now, I love pork chops. Not everybody loves pork chops, but I am a big fan. It's a lean meat, and I think that it is a really good, it's a quick meal to make, and I think you guys are really going to like it. One of the things that attracted me to this particular recipe is that it comes with this cherry sauce. And as you know, cherries are in season right now. But the best part about it is that you can use fresh pitted cherries, or you can buy the frozen pitted cherries, which is what I'm going to be using tonight. And that will get the job done just as well. So I'm going to start with getting the sauce ready first. So I have a medium saucepan, and I'm going to go ahead and put in this. This is a 1 pound bag. Hey Scott, how are you? I'm going to go ahead and put this is a 1 pound bag of sweet dark cherries or pitted. It's so amazing now what you can get at the store already frozen. This is a story for another day, but I actually found diced avocado in the frozen section, which I think is amazing for like smoothies and things like that. So I'm going to put that in, and there's some seasoning that I'm going to put into this as well, which is some ground ginger. It's about a teaspoon. And just remember, you know, I never measure anything. Hey, Tammy. I never measure anything, so I'm just like gonna eyeball this. This is about a teaspoon. You know, the dried seasonings, it's okay if you put a little bit more in. You know, they're a little bit, I would not say diluted, but they're a little bit muted when they're dried. So we've got some dried ground ginger, also some ground chipotle chili peppers, and if you don't have chipotle chili peppers, you can use a regular chili. Here I'm just like, again, measuring in my hand because I don't like to clean more dishes than I have to. You can use regular chili if you don't have chipotle. The chipotle chili will have like a smoky flavor to it, which will be, you know, quite delicious, but sometimes you can't find that. And we're going to take a little bit of salt, about 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and add that to the pan. About 2 good pinches is what I would say. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this on the burner on a medium heat. And because I'm using frozen, it's going to take a little bit to kind of like bring to come down. So I'm going to give it a stir and get this. And if you notice, I did not put any liquid in this pan. This is just the cherries. This is whether they're fresh or frozen. There's going to be plenty of liquid plenty of juice that comes out of these cherries, and you won't need to add any additional liquid to it. And as that heats up, the cherries will start to break down a little bit, and then I'll show you. I'll be using the spoon to kind of like smush them and make this really nice cherry sauce. So then what I'm going to do is start getting the meat ready. So I'm going to let this go for a little bit, and so it breaks down. Oh, you know what I really want to show you guys is what I'm drinking tonight. I know that sounds crazy, but because this has a cherry sauce on it, and because pork is kind of like, you know, the other white meat, you can certainly drink a white wine with this, but I thought a perfect pairing for this would be a Pinot Noir. And I've already poured myself a glass, and you can see this glass is actually kind of a tulip shape. And this is actually a glass made by the varietal glass company that makes a lot of nice wine glasses. This is made especially for Pinot Noirs. Now, I know a lot of people poo-poo this, but I am a firm believer that these varietal shapes really place the wine on the place in your tongue to really bring out the best flavor. These glasses cannot make a bad wine taste good, but they can take a really nice, good, or great wine and make it even that much more pleasurable. I have to agree. So the reason I chose the Pinot Noir is that not only is it a light red wine, which is great for the summertime, but Pinot Noirs are known for having kind of that cherry note to them. And since we're having a cherry sauce, it seems like a good match. So I can already hear these cherries starting to break down. And let me just do a quick little, I know the cherries are dark and so is the pan. They're not quite ready to smush down. They're still a little bit frozen, but there's definitely juice coming out. And so you just want to keep stirring that, every one of these. Oh, do you want to know where you can get these wine glasses? I can absolutely let you know where to get these wine glasses. In fact, I can put a link to in the post. When this live video gets turned into a a permanent video, I can definitely put the link as to where to find these glasses. I've actually become kind of a wine glass snob. I have a different wine glass for pretty much every varietal of wine that I drink, including like oaked and unoaked Chardonnay. Believe it or not, it really does make a difference. One day, I probably do a video of just about that because it really is amazing. So, all right, so I'm going to let that go. In the meantime, let me go get my pork chops. So, here they are. I have 4 really lovely. These are center cut pork loin chops. They're boneless, which is, I actually really like the bone in, but sometimes these cook a little bit faster. The bone in chops tend to have a little bit more flavor just because of anything you cook that still has the bone on it. You're going to get more flavor in it. So this kind of pork chop, you really have to be careful because you can dry it out really quickly, and then it's not very pleasurable to just be like chewing on it all the time. So, so I've already taken these out of the packaging. I've patted them dry with paper towels. And what's going to happen with these is that I'm going to prepare them, and then we're going to coat them in a spice sauce, and then we're going to basically saute them in my new favorite pan, the cast iron skillet. So one of the things I do to prepare these pork chops is, let me get my knife. A lot of times what you see with these pork loin is this beautiful chop here, but look, we've got like that piece of fat right there, and I don't want you to remove it because the fat is where the flavor is. Oh, hey, Lisa. But what can happen if you don't score this fat, it will curl up and not cook evenly. So basically what I'm going to do is just cut little lines in here. Let me do it. You can't really, one of these days I'm going to invest in a camera that, can do like Food Network and and be like overhead. Or maybe I should just get a cameraman. Does anyone want to volunteer and get free meal, get a free dinner? So what I did here is, you can see I scored the fat. So I have 4 pork chops here, and I'm going to score them all the same, just so it doesn't curl. And some of these chops have more fat on them than others. Like this one here really doesn't have any fat on it, so I'm not going to score it. I know, Lisa, I know. The fat is the best. The fat is the best part. Embrace the fat. The fat is what makes you happy. All right, and actually this 4th chop is also very little fat on it. So these are ready. Let me put this knife away. Of course, now I need to wash my hands because I've touched this meat. Be back. So now I can get my, ooh, you know what? We need to take a look at this cherry sauce because it is really bubbling now. So let's take a look. Ooh, boy. All right, so I would say, yeah, these are already, and I'm just using this spoon to smush and break down some of these whole cherries. Now, you may want to have a sauce that is mostly whole cherries. I kind of think that it would be more pleasurable to eat if it was kind of a mixture. So I'm going to smush these, but you can smush them down even more if you want. And it's just really juicy. And because we've put those spices in with it, the ginger and the chili, it's just making a really nice aroma. I was going to say smell, but that doesn't sound very chefy. So it's an aroma. So yeah, this is going really nicely. So now that this is broken down a little bit, I want to make a slurry to kind of make it into like a really saucy sauce. And a slurry is pretty easy. It's just a thickening agent. So what I have in this little container here is about a tablespoon of flour. Now, if you want to make this recipe gluten-free, do not use flour. But another good substitute is called arrowroot flour, and that is gluten-free, and it also is great for thickening. So I'm just going to put about a tablespoon or so of water, maybe a little bit more in here, and I'm going to mix it up. And I put it in this container so that I can put a cap on it and shake it, and you'll see. And that is basically so that I don't have to worry about lumps. If anybody's ever had lumpy gravy at Thanksgiving, you know what I'm talking about. You do not want, and the lumpiness comes from not having this thickening agent incorporate. So there. And this is the fastest, easiest way to get the flour and water incorporated. So I'm just going to pour this little slurry right into the cherry sauce and give it a stir. Let me show. And as that boils and the flour cooks, or arrowroot, whichever route you go, you'll notice it will really begin to thicken. And I can see it thickening right away. So what I'm going to do with this sauce is I'm going to turn the burner down to low, and I'm going to put a lid on it. And I may even end up putting this on a lower, this is on like kind of a medium burner, but I may end up moving it over to like a simmer burner, just so it just stays bubbling, but not too much, because I don't want it to burn. But that is it for the sauce, basically. I mean, it's basically dump it in, let it juice, throw the slurry in, and then just let it simmer. And while that's happening, you finish the pork chops. So I've already prepared the pork chops, so I just need to prepare the spice rub that I'm going to put on them. So the spice rub consists of, let me get out my recipe again. Okay, so we need some salt, about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I've got this little tiny bowl here. So 1/4 teaspoon is a healthy pinch, I would call. And if you're watching your salt, maybe make it not so healthy. And then I'm going to take some ground coriander. This is McCormick's. I use McCormick's a lot for my, especially the organic stuff. So we're going to use about 1.25 teaspoons of the ground coriander, and about the same amount of cumin. This is ground cumin, about 1.25 teaspoons. I love cumin. Cumin is so earthy and good. It's used in so many different cuisines. I think of Indian cuisine, but it's really in everything. And some pepper, black pepper, ground black pepper. Oh boy, I smell that cumin. It smells delicious. Again, about half a teaspoon. Again, all of the ingredients and instructions for this recipe are going to be on the video when it gets posted. I'll take the live video, it will get downloaded, it'll go on my personal Facebook, and it'll also go on my YouTube channel. So if you're on YouTube and you like to see it there, you know, I have a whole channel that I've devoted to Dinner with Debbie recipes. So it'll be a whole catalog of Dinner with Debbie recipes on my YouTube channel, which you can find at Debbie Meighan Realtor. Of course, I do have real estate videos on there as well, but I do have a whole channel devoted to Dinner with Debbie. So I've got these spices, and because I'm just this kind of girl, I'm just going to use my fingers to incorporate them, and then I am going to put this on top of all of my pork chops. So this is about enough for 4. So if you were going to make more than four pork chops, I would probably increase the amount here. But so I'm sprinkling it on each, and then I'm going to rub it in and show you guys what it looks like. And this is more than enough to fill both sides of this pork chop, and then I usually even have enough to do the sides with, because these are kind of thicker pork chops. And of course I have the spice all over my hands too. And I'll show you guys what this looks like when I'm done. So I've really integrated that. Hey Karen, how are you? Hey Lynn. So here are my pork chops. I've got them spiced on both sides. I've pressed those spices in. And I can tell you, I wish you guys could smell this because it smells really good. There. All right, so I just really like to get it incorporated and pressed into the meat. I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands real quick, and then we're going to get the pan ready for sauteing them on both sides. So it occurs, yeah, and all this stuff is like stuck to my fingers. That's the only problem when you're like breading things or spicing things on top of like, and this is after I put the paper towel on and you know, got up the extra moisture. Right, I'm just checking our sauce here. It's boiling pretty good. I'm going to move this to a slower simmer burner. There we go. Had trouble getting the burner to come on for a second, just because it's boiling pretty well. So I have my 12-inch cast iron skillet. I've already got a tablespoon of butter in here. I'm going to turn the heat on to about medium, and I'm going to take some olive oil. The recipe calls for either avocado oil or olive oil. I think olive oil is a lot easier to get your hands on, but if you'd really prefer avocado oil, then, you know, go for it. So, hey Rachel. I'm cooking after a day at the horse show. Yeah, I am cooking after a day at the horse show because, you know, we still have to eat. And this is so easy. I can cook it after I've been at the horse show. Now, I didn't ride at the horse show. I was just an observer at the horse show. Hey, Nikki. So I'm letting this warm up. I want the butter to melt and for the oil to heat. But I think this goes to the point is that yeah, I was out. I could have been, you know, at appointments, or you could come home after a day of work, and you can still put a nice meal on the table. Now, I was having a nice chat with one of the moms who has like a younger child who horse shows at our barn, and she mentioned to me that she's like, you know, I hate cooking. You're going to have to show me how to cook, and I'm of course happy to do that. But she brought up a really good point, and it's really got me thinking about it. And she's like, you know, I just don't really want to make all this effort to cook something and then have my kids not like it, and then make, you know, and then you're going to be mad, right? So, you know, we don't want to cook and be resentful for cooking. So that defeats the purpose. So I think I'm going to be thinking about some real family-friendly recipes, so that, maybe to add a little bit of spice to your family dinner, something that you can get on the table quickly, with maybe no drama. I know when you have multiple kids and they all have their own things that they like and don't like, it can be difficult. But I'm going to put my thinking cap on and definitely going to be thinking about this for the future, about some recipes that I think that will maybe be a hit in the family. So I think we can do more than, just like what I had when I was growing up, which was hot dogs or, cheeseburgers and stuff. And of course, I love a good cheeseburger. So I've got my pan here. It is pretty hot now. I'm going to go ahead and put these pork chops in. Now I'm going to see if I can hold this so that you can see how I'm doing it. What you don't want to have happen when you go and put meat or anything else in a hot skillet with hot oil is for it to splatter up at you. So what you want to do is I want to put it in and put it down away from me. I don't know if you can hear that sizzle. I'll bend the microphone down. Maybe you can hear it. So that's actually not sizzling as much as I would like, so I turned up the heat a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead, and this pan is big enough for me to fit all 4 of these pork chops in. And just remember, the fat that was on the pork chop will be kind of melting down and becoming part of the oil and butter that is on here. So I don't need this pan anymore, so I'm going to take that away. Let me wash this hand. I had the one hand touching the meat. So the one thing, well, I think it's time for a wine break, honestly. That was a lot of work. So the one thing that you want to do, the one little tool that you'd like to have on hand when you're doing a meat like this is a very lean meat. As you can see, there's very little fat on it. You want it to be cooked, but you don't want it to be overcooked. And one of the best ways to prepare meat like this is to have one of these little gadgets. That is an instant read thermometer. So when I open this up, this little probe, see there, as soon as I open it up, it turns on the digital read. So what I'm going to do when this cooks a little bit more, I'm going to stick the probe into the meat, not all the way in, you don't want it to touch the pan, but you want to get it about halfway into the thickest part of the meat. And for this pork chop, we want it to get to be about 145 degrees. When it is 145 degrees, it's done. Turn it off, take it off the heat. And the way this is going to be served, I think this would be a delicious main dish with, like, if you're in a hurry, just throw a bag salad out there. If you want to have some starch with it, I'm a big fan of the frozen rice that you can just throw in the microwave and it'd be ready in a jiffy. So you can have you can feel like you're having like a home cooked meal because you've made the protein, but you're, making it easy on yourself by having sides that are really quick. And maybe you just want to have, what I do a lot is just take broccoli and broccoli heads and steam them. To me, I think, keeping it fresh and easy is the way to go. And we've got all of this, cherry sauce that can go on the rice. It'll go on the pork chop. You can use it, actually you can dip your broccoli in it or your asparagus or whatever kind of vegetable that you like. So these are going to cook about 4 to 5 minutes on each side. And because they're spiced, they're going to look browner than normal because they're, because of the seasonings are kind of brown. So I don't know, can you guys hear that? So I know you might be able to hear it, but I know you can't smell it. And what I can tell you is it smells absolutely yummy. I actually did practice this over the weekend, and it did get 2 thumbs up from Mark, which is always a good sign. And what I like about this too is that there's very few dishes that get dirty. Very, very few. So I wanted to show you the wine that I was drinking tonight. It is this really lovely, as I mentioned, it's a Pinot Noir, and it has an absolutely beautiful label. A picture of this will be in the video, but this is from Bel Pente Vineyard. It is in Oregon, which is the home of a lot of very nice Pinot Noirs. So, okay. My dog suddenly took off barking. I'm sure there was nothing. She often barks at nothing. Oh my gosh, I'm going to start turning these over, and then I'm going to show you what they look like. They're absolutely beautiful. I'm totally in love with how these pork chops look. So the reason for putting the spice on it is, you know, sometimes pork can be a little bit, I don't want to say boring, but a little bit like not flavorful. Let's put it that way. And for your family, you can change the spices to the way you want, but you know, I think the cumin, there's nothing really offensive in here. It's not super spicy. It's just giving it a little enhancement. And for anyone who's, you know, maybe had a facial or whatever, you know, you like enhancements. So here's what your pork chops look like after they've been turned. And in another 4 or so minutes, they'll be done. And just for laughs, let's see what the temperature is with the instant read. So I'm going to stick this into one of them, and we're going to see. It's sort of like taking your kid's temperature, you know, with your little thermometer. Pressing the button. Looks like we're at about 115. And so I've only just flipped these. So I'm thinking at 4 minutes or so, 4 or 5 minutes on this side, we're going to be in really good shape with these. That is the one trick I would recommend with cooking, is that when it comes to cooking meat, you really don't want to go try to do a bunch of other things and then come back to it, especially something that cooks kind of quick, because it can go from yummy to leather in not too long. So it makes for a much better a better experience. So, oh, you know what? I think I forgot to put something in my sauce. Yeah, I did. So after I put the slurry in, I was supposed to add some lime juice. So this is just how I roll. Here's the lime juice. I'm going to just dump some in now because it's just bubbling away nicely, so it'll incorporate. So I think it was calling for about a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of lime juice. So I'm just going to put a splash. And this I just got. Sometimes if I have a fresh lime, I'll cut it in half and juice it right in there. But I didn't have a lime today, so I have this lime juice. And this is Santa Cruz Organic Pure Lime Juice. I'm thinking that it's going to be good. I'm just going to put a splash of that in there, and then I'll give it a stir. And that'll just give some nice fresh acidity to that sauce. And actually, as I'm stirring it, I can feel that it's gotten really thick. And it's starting to maybe stick to the bottom a little bit. So probably just going to turn it off. I'm going to turn off the burner on that. All right, so I'm going to put the thermometer back into our pork chop and see where we're at. I'm going to do a different pork chop this time. Oh yeah. I can tell already that it is higher. It's taking a minute to get to its optimum reading here. Yeah, it's at just over 145, so I'm going to turn this off. And what I'm going to do is bring my cutting board over. This really large cutting board. And because they're still bubbling in here, I'm going to take my tongs and I'm just going to take these off the heat. Maybe I'll just flip them over 1 second to see if I can get a little bit more color on them. Then I'm going to bring them over to my cutting board. And I'm going to need my oven mitts so that I can remove this hot cast iron, because what you have to remember with the cast iron is that obviously the whole thing's hot. So I want to get this away from me so I don't burn myself. But I need to use my mitts in order to do that. So I'm just going to plate this one piece up really quick so you can see what it looks like. So what I've also done here is I've chopped up some scallions, and I had some fresh herbs. I had some fresh dill, so I chopped that up as well. So what I'm going to do is take one pork chop and just look at that, yummy. That goes on the plate. Now, if I had rice, I'd be putting on top of the rice. And then I'm going to spoon a little bit of this cherry sauce on here. And now, even though I didn't smush up every single one of these, you can see there's like some whole, some mostly broken down. And then I'm going to just put a little bit of the fresh scallion and a little bit of the fresh dill. Now, if you had mint would also be delicious. Italian flat leaf parsley also be delicious. And there you go. This is spiced pork chops with cherry sauce. I hope you give it a try and let me know how you like it.